Silent Hill 2 is creepier than you remember. At least it was way creepier than I remembered, because I just played through the game again, and I think there's a lot of pretty underrated scary moments that I forgot about. And maybe you did too. So I took some notes and came up with a list of about 18 creepy moments that I think are pretty underrated, but really creeped me out when I first played the game. And they still creep me out now as an adult man-child. So in this video, I'll be going through each creepy moment chronologically, just as they would appear in a regular playthrough, while sharing my personal experience and opinion, and rating each moment on a tier list. So let's get into it. First, let's go over the tier list. I'm using a 5-tier system from least creepy to most creepy. And at the very bottom, the kinda creepy but I'll get over it tier. And these are moments where I basically just forget about it a few seconds later, but at the time, it's pretty creepy. The next tier, okay, that's pretty creepy. Which is like saying, okay, good job game, you really did a good job scaring me, good job. And next up is the, alright, I'ma head out tier. And these are moments that just make you freeze up and want to get the hell out of there as soon as possible. Further up, certified creep, 7 days a week tier. And these are the moments that are really genuinely creepy, they really creep me out, and they probably creeped you out as well. And the highest, I'm so creeped out I could turn into an almond tier. And these are the creepy cream of the crop moments that stand above the rest. And I still think about these sometimes, even when I'm not playing the game. Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? That's how I'll be ranking these moments, and we'll start with the very first creepy part of the game, which is the forest trail. Now you might already be saying, hey buddy, this isn't even that scary, it's just the beginning of the game. And to that I say, maybe. Actually, no, I'm not going to let you gaslight me. Let me tell you why I think it's creepy. So right after you get the map, you're instructed to go to Rosewater Park, and there's only one way to get there, and that's through the forest trail. And as you go down the trail, you start to hear these not quite human, yet not quite animal noises, and it's just very odd and bizarre. It makes you think like, what the hell is that, you know? And the camera looks like it's watching James from the woods. And it's just creepy, man. Have you ever been in the woods in real life? It's scary, even during the daytime. And the whole sequence just goes on a little too long, the music is just very unnerving, it builds slowly, and it's like a long descent into hell. Even though it's not the creepiest moment, admittedly, it's a nice tone setter for the game. So I'm putting the forest trail into the kinda creepy but I'll get over it tier. Getting the flashlight. This is a classic moment because it's the first time you see a mannequin enemy, and it is a bit jump scary because of this, when the light suddenly flickers out from the flashlight, and it's like, damn, I just picked up a shitty flashlight. But I think it's more creepy than jump scary, you know? You walk into the room, mannequins are already kind of creepy enough, and then you notice that the mannequin is dressed in Mary's clothes. It just shows that something's not right. When you first walk into the room, you see the mannequin's silhouette. It's covered in the shadow still. It hides the mannequin really well, so it's just this really obscured figure, and you're not really sure what it is. And in the next camera angle, you can see that it's actually a headless mannequin dressed in Mary's clothes. And this is just really creepy, and it's just, I don't know, very well done. It starts the foreshadowing with the hunt of Mary, and she's not really what you think she is. This scene is really well done. It's such a good introduction to the item. And with all that said, the moment you get the flashlight rightfully goes into the, okay, that's pretty creepy tier. Pyramid Head behind bars. This scene is both awesome and creepy. Right before you go into that T section of the hallway, you hear this crying baby, and it's just very odd and out of place. And then you slowly go down the hall to kind of investigate, right? And there's a slow build of the radio static. And you check every single door on the way, but everything's locked. Until you finally see Pyramid Head, barely visible, but just visible enough behind the bars. And foreshadowing is always creepy, and I think this is really well done. But to be honest, I actually didn't even notice this part the first time I played the game. Maybe my brightness was too low, or I was just too scared, so I ran right into the clock room. It's just such a good scene. You can turn off your flashlight to see the really red pyramid head thing. Ooh, look how red I am. And this is just a solid creepy moment for the, alright, I'ma head out tier. The Whisper in Room 209. This creeps me out so much just because it really caught me off guard. It's just really creepy. Whispers are always creepy, and there's really no explanation given why this happens, right? And actually, this doesn't happen every time you go into room 209. I played through this section 3 times just to gather the footage for the video, and I only got the whisper 2 out of the 3 times, so it's kind of a random event, so it's even more creepy because of that. And by the way, this is the PlayStation 2 version. I know there is some speculation that it only happens in the HD version or the PC version or something like that, but I can confirm this does happen in the PS2 version. And the whisper is always a go-to creepy trope that can be used anywhere, and it's perfectly suited for a place like Silent Hill. So I'm putting this moment in the Certified Creep 7 days a week tier. The Flying Mannequins. And this is just another moment that catches you off guard. It's just really odd seeing mannequins being tossed out of nowhere right in front of you. Like, oh hey, what's up? And for the longest time I thought these were lying figures. Maybe it's just a Nelson from The Simpsons effect. Is that a Mandela effect? Does that qualify for that? Anyway. It's not as creepy since Maria's right behind you, and it's outside in kind of dusk, so it's still daylight outside. It's creepy once you see it once, but after the first couple times, it just kind of loses its magic. Overall, it's a cool moment, but kind of forgettable. So it's going in the kind of creepy, but I'll get over it tier. Maria missing from the sick room. So for this moment, I'm specifically talking about the otherworld part of the hospital, and this is where you go to the room where she's first resting, like taking a little nap while she's coughing. So when you go there again, you're expecting to meet Maria, but she's not there. But instead, once you go through the door, you'll hear this really creepy breathing and this heartbeat sound effect, and it just sounds like death in there. And after you go in a little further, James will find Maria's medication, which is alluded to previously in the regular hospital when Mary is resting while she's coughing up a lung. But it's just one of those kind of more depressing moments. It just feels like this cycle is going to continue and that Mary and Maria's fates are inevitably intertwined. And because of this uneasy feeling I get when I go into this room, I'm going to put this moment in the, okay, that's pretty creepy tier. The basement's basement. This is one of those moments that has a lot of lead up and a lot of foreshadowing. So first, it starts off when you read the memo about someone being locked up in the basement's basement, which, by the way, imagine being in a double basement. That is pretty wild. But the author of the memo ends the note saying they dropped their precious ring, but will never go back there, presumably because it's so scary. So of course, the game makes you go down there to get the ring so you can eventually go through this very fancy door. And on the way down, you can hear this really creepy screeching crying sound that again, just doesn't sound like it's human or animal. So finally you open the door and Mary suddenly appears, and she's being pretty toxic, honestly, but her sudden emotional changes and this fluctuation of extreme emotions is actually pretty creepy to me.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? You don't sound very happy to see me. I was almost killed back there.
So after you chat it out for a bit, you finally go down the ladder to the basement part of the basement, and with all that anticipation built up, nothing happens. And nothing really needs to happen. The tension was so tense that the whole buildup was the actual creepy part. And with that kind of slow burn suspense, this moment deserves a solid, I'ma head out tier. And speaking of moments that have a lot of build-up, Neely's bar message. So, admittedly, on the surface, taken out of context, the moment is not that creepy, but with context, this moment really got to me. So the scene takes place in Neely's bar, which I don't think you're ever required to actually enter in the normal game. And when a horror game adds something spooky to places that the player might not even go, it just seems like a personal attack. Maybe I take things too personal, I don't know. So when you first go in Neely's bar, it's just a message. Once upon a time there was a hole here, but now it's gone. And I'm glad they fixed that hole because I don't think anybody likes broken windows. Ha! JK. it's probably a psychological hole. And later in the game, after the hospital section, you can actually go back to Neely's bar, but I think it's much less likely that the player will actually go back here because they already have an objective, which is to find the letter and wrench. And plus it's really dark outside, so I don't think anyone's in the mood to really explore, but I did, and I was really creeped out by the new message. It just reinforces this idea that James is on a hopeless mission, and to see that literally spelled out just solidifies the creepiness of it. And with all that, I think it's fair to put this moment really high up into the Certified Creep 7 days a week tier. Misty Day, Remains of the Judgment, aka the Pyramid Head painting. And this is our first creepy moment in the Historical Society. It's super quiet inside, which is a stark contrast to the chaos that was just outside. And as you start to venture further in the room, you can see the pyramid head in the painting far away. And as you approach, there's this kind of locking and creaky noise, and I'm like, shit, is he right behind me? But thankfully no. But seeing him in the painting form is creepy enough, and to me, paintings are just scary. I don't know why. And James' comment is pretty good. He just says, it's him, like it's his high school bully. But overall, this very quiet atmosphere is pierced solely by the iconic imagery of Pyramid Head in a painting. And this is enough for the moment to go into the, okay, that's pretty creepy tier. The Historical Society stairs. And I was debating whether or not to even put it on the list, but it actually was kind of creepy when I first went all the way down the stairs, when I first played the game. I don't even know if they are stairs, actually. But it just went on for a really uncomfortable amount of time, and the horn sound gets louder and louder as you descend further down, and it's pretty unsettling, especially if you read about the lore earlier with the sinking ship and all those people drowning, and maybe that horn is the boat horn. But either way, this unsettling feeling is enough for this moment to barely make the list at the kinda creepy but I'll get over it tier. The bathroom stall. It's kind of self-evident why this is on here. It is kind of a jump scare, but I think it's super creepy as well. And I was just really not prepared to face anything like this in the game at this point. It's just a very unexpected moment in a Silent Hill game. At least it was. I know they do this kind of thing more often now. And I don't even like the idea of humans behind a bathroom stall, right? Let alone some unknown monster hiding in there. And worst of all, I don't think this moment is triggered consistently. In other words, I think it's kind of random. I tried to get the event trigger to this jump scare a few times before I recorded this, and nothing happened for 2 times. It took me 3 times to get the jump scare to happen. I'm not sure exactly what triggers it, just like the other bathroom in Silent Hill 1. So that said, this kind of unpredictability in an environment like this is enough to put this moment high up into the Certified Creep 7 days a week tier. The prison cell paintings. I had actually completely forgot about this moment before I just played it again recently. Once you go into the prison, there's just so many rooms you can explore, and you finally go into one of the only open prison cells. There's all this stomping and walking coming from above you, and there's this really deep demonic voice that just keeps yapping, and the paintings are actually pretty creepy to me. There's the Burning Man, which I think represents the Lakeview Hotel, or maybe James. Maybe James is looking at it like, is this me? Wait, is this me? Who drew this? Laura?
It was you, wasn't it?
And yeah, I think they are metaphors for James and Mary. I'm not sure what the 436 people at the recital painting is about, but let me know in the comments if you know. Again, this just reiterates my theory that paintings are scary. So this is just a solid C tier creepy moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it in the, okay, that's pretty creepy tier. The Gallows. And now we're cooking with this creepy moment. The Gallows area is just a big, dark, open space that's just really scary for some reason. It's way too big. It doesn't make sense how big it is. But the image of the Gallows itself is actually pretty cool. But while you're walking around wandering through this large area, there's a weird rustling, kind of galloping noise. And it just makes it seem like something bad is going to go down after solving this puzzle. And some people might be a bit underwhelmed by that scream after you put all the tablets in there. But to me, that's just to throw you off from the real creepy part. The sudden appearance of the horseshoe item. So maybe those were actually galloping horse noises after all. And this just goes to show that, just like the basement, not every moment has to have something big happen, you know? Sometimes the journey is creepier than the destination. And with that, I'm putting the Gallows at a respectable, I'm a head out tier. Maria behind bars.
James, honey, did something happen to you? After we got separated in that long hallway?
Now we're really cooking, okay? I know I said we're cooking before, but we were just cooking macaroni and cheese before, alright? Now we're doing a steak dinner. And to give more context to this scene, this is the first time James sees Maria after she was presumably killed by Pyramid Head in the hospital basement hallway. But then after that room spinning puzzle, which I always just spam through, I never take time to look what I'm doing. After you finish that puzzle, you see her perfectly fine, but something's finally really off. Like, she's a completely different person. And the score behind the scene is just perfect. There's that sawing kind of echo effect in the sound design. And there's this really deep shadow on her eyes. It just looks like kind of Maria, but not really. And to me, it just kind of shows that the line between Maria and Mary are starting to blur a little bit. And yeah, she just questions everything that just happened. And it's like, she's legitimately gaslighting you, right? When she's like, what are you talking about? I'm fine. I wasn't stabbed. Are you confusing me with somebody else?
What do you mean?
And that line where he's like,
aren't you Maria?
And she says,
I'm not your Mary.
that line is delivered perfectly. I love the way that's spoken. And she goes on to say, it doesn't matter who I am, I'm here for you, James. And it's just so eerie that she's admitting that she's not even a real person at this point. And she's kind of scary, honestly. This is the scariest she's ever been in the entire game so far. Even after the cutscene when she's like an NPC, that movement behind the bars and her sitting on the bed is still very creepy to me. I don't know, maybe this scene didn't affect you as much, but it really got to me. And honestly, it's so creepy to me that I have to put it at the top. So this is the first moment that jumps up into the I'm so creeped out I could turn into an almond tier. And this is actually only one of two moments that gets in the S rank spot. Can you guess what the other moment is? James Sunderland's Tombstone. What are the odds that someone else named James Sunderland was buried here? Anyway, this is a pretty interesting part of the game. It's right after the Abstract Daddy boss fight and right before the Eddie boss fight. And in this graveyard area, you can just kind of see that all the characters' fates are sealed. Everyone has a tombstone: Eddie, Angela, Walter Sullivan, and finally we see James' open grave, and it's the only way to continue through the game. And playing again now, it's just kind of a cool moment, but when I first played it, it was kind of like, oof, man, this isn't going to end well, huh? So it was a bit creepy at the time when I first played the game. But overall, it's not the creepiest moment in the game, but it has just enough creep factor to make it onto the tier list. So I'm putting it at the kinda creepy but I'll get over it tier. Waiting for you. I think this moment might be my favorite underrated creepy moment in Silent Hill 2. I don't know if it's just me, but this part really got me, especially when I first played the game. The sound effects make it just so much creepier too. You're in the final area of the game. It's super quiet and creepy already. You know you're probably going to confront Mary at some point, and you finally build up the nerve to go inside Lakeview Hotel, and as usual, you go right for the map, but as soon as you pull up the map, there it is. The message on room 312, waiting for you. To me, it's such a creepy, powerful moment, and I can't really explain why, but I'll give it a shot. To me, it's like the initial message that Mary's waiting for you in our special place in the beginning of the game. It's filled with hope, maybe false hope, but it's still filled with hope. You were still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at that point of the game, ready to take on whatever Silent Hill might throw at you. But by this point of the game, right at the end, you're just beaten down, man, and just hopeless. And so to me, the message actually reads more like a warning rather than a goal. And also a side note, if you check the letter in your inventory at this point in the game, it's now blank, and that just adds to the creep level. You don't even know who or what is waiting for you at this point, but whatever it is, it's not going to be good. Maybe it didn't creep you out as much, but it definitely got me. So to me personally, I'm ranking this moment very high, putting it in the well-deserved Certified Creep 7 days a week tier. Mary's voice on the 3rd floor. This is a moment that I like to call the 3 S's. Short, sweet, and effective. Super effective. And this is one of those moments that you don't have to encounter. So if you decide to go up there before you have the key, you'll notice it's locked. And right when you're about to walk away, Mary's voice just pierces the silence. It feels like it's really Mary too. Her tone is just very real, like she's genuinely calling out for James. It's just very unexpected, definitely creepy, short but sweet, very well executed. It makes your hair stand up on your spine and sends shivers down your hair or whatever. To me, this is the definition of the I'm gonna head out tier. So I'm gonna put it there. The staff elevator. This moment made me go, oh shit, what is happening? I can't put into words how creeped out this moment made me feel, especially the first time playing through. You're just not expecting it at all. You walk into the elevator and you're greeted with this very jarring alarm sound. And on the surface, it just seems like a casual jump scare. But no, when you examine the elevator to see why it won't go down, you're given a message. Wait allowance. 1 person. And if you're like me, you probably thought, oh no, there's something else in here with me. And this all happens in the middle of this obnoxious pulsing alarm sound, and you're just thrown this nightmare of a curveball. And I know this is a mechanic that's meant to actually make the player put away all their items to explore the next area, basically naked, but I really think it's more than that, and I think the devs knew exactly what we'd be thinking. And I present to you the hospital elevator in Silent Hill 1 as evidence. And of course, I'm talking about the infamous 4th floor that magically appears after you check every other locked floor. And this death floor sends you to the otherworld version of the hospital in Silent Hill 1. And now, take a look at where the weight limit message is on the elevator button panel. Right where the 4th floor would appear in the first game. So even though you were weighed down by all your items, I think that's just on the surface. I actually think it's a clever nod to Silent Hill 1. So to me, this is canon, and that's actually what's going on, and that's a Silent Hill I'm willing to die on. And because this creepy elevator scarred me for life, this is our second and final moment that deserves the coveted S rank, and rightfully belongs in the I'm so creeped out I could turn into an almond tier. Alright you creepers, we made it to the end of the video. What was your favorite creepy moment in Silent Hill 2? Let me know in the comments. And if you're interested in this video format, just let me know. I can start to work on Silent Hill 3 and 4. And as always, thanks for watching.